one area they're just too good in, and that area is team games. That's right. This happened before the scrims with Recon, Salami, and Zertan. They went onto the ladders against top 300 players in team ranked, the Dean of Bao clan, and they're like, dog, I think this might work. Get yourselves a French player for aggression, get yourself an HRE player for the plow through and Burgrave, and then have Mr. Crafty little Mr. on his Malians ready to provide all the beef your heart could ever need to have a heart attack. You'll even see him start opening up the straggler wood sources so you can easily get as much gold as possible going with the houses to begin with. And this is quite a nice optimization, right? You just want to set yourself up to be able to plop as many houses here as possible before having to walk away to minimize idle time. So you then have enough wood for probably about 4 houses, I think the usual is, as well as the lumber camp that you're going to need afterwards. Love this change, by the way. I really want to give a big shout out to Relic for that small difference. That on pretty much all these maps now, you have very close straggler trees. It's such a big difference. I feel like one big limitation we had in the previous iterations is like you just had no choice but to get a lumber camp quite quick. Playing straggler trees just didn't feel ever like an option you could take. But now with them being so close, it's brilliant to see. You know, it was something that we only ever got to see on the old version of the game on Black Forest, because Black Forest was the only map that had those wood spawns. In fact, those were a little bit overtuned to the point that sometimes they would spawn basically in the TC. Now have the beef. They most definitely will have the beef. The other side will not, though, because while we do see a mirroring of English, or HRE rather, we don't see anything else being mirrored. Instead, Dean of Bao went for double English, suggests to me that they're going for a very aggressive timing here. So their goal is to have 2 English players spam Lombos and Men-at-Arms early on, and then they'll have their third player in the HRE come over the top with strong Men-at-Arms and Castle Age. I think they're going to get caught out by this strat, though. Lombos take a long time to cross the map, and also keep in mind, if your plan is to double push Lombos, you are up against a French player. Knights can intercept, and they can pick you apart, even if you go Men-at-Arms. So instead, you're probably going to have to go for Spear Lombo, which sounds good, but I'm worried about the timings you're going to face here. You know, I do feel like the HRE player on the other side, Vortex will be able to get up quick enough and start pushing out the Men-at-Arms. And even if your own HRE player mirrors that timing, the difference is that his food will eventually dry up. But if the Malian player just keeps providing the beef, you know, Vortex is going to be able to just rush towards 100 Men-at-Arms and never stop producing. Let's see how these openings play out, though. Farm's already being set up for Dean of Bao. It kind of makes sense, right? Like, you don't necessarily have that many sheep. You want to get the scouting done. You can see, actually, he found no sheep, so he kind of got forced into this. I think also, yeah, so I will say Dean of Bao vanilla style could have went sheep instead and delayed this farm transition. It feels like if your goal is to get a lot of Lombos across the map and pressure straight away, this is going to heavily delay your timing. This is almost comparative to what we just watched before with the 3 pros, where they all went greedy on a map where you'd be more justified. It almost feels like just doing this farmland stretch early on is also incredibly greedy. The French Knights will joust with 6-foot baguette lancers. Yes. But because, you know, English bread can never be made that long, we only have 3-inch baguettes. It's our biggest embarrassment. Tough part as well is, actually, there is a way that you can play without this cheesy strategy to overwhelm Spear Lombo. And I think it's you just get scouts from the Malian player, and then you get Knights masked from the French player. And the idea is you use the scouts to, like, brunt the initial brace of the spears, and then the Knights can cycle charge in, get their bonus damage, and they pick apart the spears. Something for any French spammers who are looking to optimize their game to keep in mind, like very early on in the game when you have like a scout and a knight and you come in and your opponent has 1 spear, run your scout intentionally into the spear so that it forces the brace, because what happens with a brace is both sides of the equation initially get stunned so they can't do anything, and then the scout gets rooted afterwards. Why this is a really good play is it allows you to then immediately cycle charge in with the knight afterwards, which means that your knight does his initial heavy hit, right, with the lancer damage, but then also gets the bonus damage follow-up for the next several seconds, which allows you to basically very easily beat a spearman in a one-on-one. And, you know, your scout can take it. He's meaty enough. 110 health, and we'll regen over time. Just don't do it on repeat, is my warning, folks. If you do it against 3 different spears, your scout is going to die. Oh, we mentioned those knights. They are on the way. And to answer Galba's question, the Rus Knights can charge, yes, but the difference is that French Knights, when they charge, they get bonus damage. You see, it tells you here. For 5 seconds afterwards, their regular attacks that aren't Lancer attacks, as in with this, they just go to swords afterwards, get bonus damage, but they only get that bonus damage for 5 seconds if they strike with the lance initially. So another cool thing you'll see people do is when they have cavalry and they see French Knights coming, they'll allow them to get into charge range, and then they'll pull back until the Knights put their lances away. Because then when you turn around to fight the French Knights, they don't have a damage bonus. Scout is going to ruin the walling attempt, so Lucifron will get him his raids. Man, Lucifron just feels so comfortable with this Civ. I understand fully why it's his signature. Like I mentioned, he's probably the player that embodies raiding the most out of the top, like, 15. And, well, you'll see he'll do anything to keep that opportunity alive. Managed to strike him very quickly here. We'll find a villager for it. Recently got the villager kill. Usually you wouldn't get that kill, but he struck with the scout first. So if you move in with a knight and you attack with the lance and then with a sword strike afterwards, even with the bonus damage, you only do 48 damage. So what you want to do is use your scout, attack a villager twice, and that gets him to the threshold to insta-kill after 2 hits. Which technically isn't an insta-kill. Kind of feels like how quickly you do it. And we are seeing mass scouts again. So Lucy, interesting. This is an interesting way they play this. We already see the cattles come into play from Mr. He did set them up in the HRE base. It's intriguing that Mr. doesn't try to provide for Lucifron instead as well. Instead, Lucifron just provides for himself with the scouts into pro scouts play. This allows him to just push almost infinite knights. I also do think because the cattle rate seems to be bugged, it was intended to be boar gathering rate, which is 0.9. I think it's actually 0.8. Whereas deer is 0.84. So, like, long-term, Lucifron gathering the deer is kind of better for him. I still feel like there's a world in which the Malian player can just get pro scouts himself and provide for you, though. I guess it maybe offsets your timing into getting cattle in your teammate's base by a little bit. So maybe this is the optimal play. Whereas providing for 2 players on your team, it screws you entirely. By doing this build instead, Mr. allows himself to scale later onto the game because he'll be able to provide cattle and set up trade in the meantime. Looks like Knights are being a nuisance for poor little Kit here. And Kit, oh, buddy. He won't even be able to compete with this. He went for the Regnitz play. Now, this is very dangerous, actually, what he's done. He went for Regnitz. His teammates have been playing full defensive, and they set up farms. So you went for Regnitz to pick up relics, but you actually have 0 map control right now. And even when you get these mass spears and longbows out, your map control is quite limited. You're great at striking into your opponent's base, but the map is so wide that the knights can go around you. So it's going to be very difficult for them to get the relics for the HRE player unless they camp them and patrol back to guard them. And while you're doing those patrols, there's a different kind of patrol coming in from Vortex. I think when they're called Death Squad, they're not really here to patrol anymore. They're here to do some perma damage, and they are going to look to break through the walls that were nicely set up by Vanilla Style. I mean, he can try to pull to rebuild, but you see, nice play by Vortex. He brings a single villager out, so he will be able to chop his way through. And, well, wait, Vanilla Style? Okay, he is going to build here. Okay, good at micro there. He made sure he didn't warm himself in, but the blocks come in. Vortex, he sacrifices the villager to keep it open. Good play there. So it looks like he'll be able to get rid of the Englishville and chase one in. And all of a sudden, Vanilla Style is the one who needs assistance. This is a big problem, because now if they pivot their forces, if they redirect it towards defending green, Lucifron's going to come in over the top, literally. He's going to march in on the HRE base and the English economy. They're about to get stretched thin. The only upside they have right now is that Mr. is not participating. Oh, here's a big downside. Oh, Vanilla Style, he was going for a fast castle. And now he's got way too much to spend and nothing to spend it on. Oh, this dive. If you build this, you die. You're actually going to die trying to do this. These are tier 3 men-at-arms. They strike for 12 damage each. Just look at the villagers. The build speed is too slow. Vanilla Style was too greedy. Vortex sniffed out the perfect target. Every Villy is going down. Everyone else is idle. And remember, this is never going to stop. The men-at-arms spam is never ending. You can see they've redirected round another way. The count is already up to almost 30, and the only choice Vanilla Star has is an all-in. But this all-in is going to fail because the body blocks. Vortex, he stands between the TC and the tower, which means that these villagers are half health before they even start constructing. And no health before they can even finish the construction order. I mean, that's it. There's no way. You're now playing 2v3. And look at that. They had to bow down and back off. And remember what we said. The moment you have to march south to defend him, Lucifron will come in over the top. And Lucy, I think, is he contemplating it? He either goes into trade or maybe thinks about going Castle Age to match the HRE Knights and exceed them. He might not even need to. I honestly think if Vortex just gets the mace upgrade, he'll be able to hold in this base against all 3 players. In fact, he might be killing off one of these 3 players very soon. And that's everything, right? Yeah, Vanilla Style had... Oh my god, he has 1 villager and 1 unit. 1 military unit. Oh my god. I have never seen something so painful to stare at in an AoE 4 game. He hasn't even called GG yet. He's holding on hope. He's like, the HRE player will save me, right? Dog, the HRE player can't even save himself. Kit, he ain't like Knight Rider here. He ain't looking that sweet. He ain't looking that suave. He's getting outdone by Lucifron. This is just dunzo. Speaking of dunzos, are we going to get some Malian involvement soon? I think we might. Won't even get a chance. Vanilla Style hears me, says that. He's like, wait, another player? Screw that. I'm out of here. GG will be called by him. The other 2 have not woven the white flag yet. Which is interesting, right? They could have maybe tried to recover him. Remember, even if you lose your landmarks, you're not out in a team game until all your teammates have lost landmarks as well. But it looks like they're going to be losing them soon. Because Gold doesn't actually have an answer to these men-at-arms. And remember, Kit got traded with by Lucifron. He can't get out of his base. I mean, this is just going to be a wipe. This is more or less just Vortex killing off every single player on his own. I mean, honestly, I hope this kind of stuff doesn't get nerfed. I want more stuff like this. I was saying to the devs, I think this kind of stuff, like team games are the future of Age of Empires 4. I want more synergies like the Malians provide, not less. We might need more to balance it out though, because if this is like the strongest one by a mile, I've got a feeling the 3v3 tournament might just be Malian spam right up the wazoo. Oh, good God. It's a cool strategy, though. I've seen it 3 times now. I've seen it in different formats. I've seen it with 2 HRE players, 1 HRE player. It has a lot of flexibility. Malians are a great support civ, and we're seeing it in these pub games right now, and I definitely think we're going to see it in the tournament later this month. Do you not see the Winter Team Game AoE 4? The Winter Team Game thing hasn't begun yet. EGC's tournament starts later this month. Oh, man. Malians maybe dog tier in 1v1s, but they are looking pretty god tier in team games.